This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Disabled Persons Assembly's Notable Radio Show. DPA is a systemic advocacy organisation run by and for disabled people. DPA is a pan-impaired organisation with members across the country. Over the next half hour, we'll discover how we can work collaboratively to achieve inclusion for all New Zealanders. DPA's Notable Radio Show, a whole new attitude.
Kia ora, I'm your host Amy Taylor and this is DPA's Notable Radio Show. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling winter. Either too cold or if the heating's on, I feel kind of drowsy and lethargic. I feel tired all day, but then I find that I'm wide awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I don't want to get up early because it's freezing cold, but then when I sleep in, I kind of feel a bit dulled. Just sort of feeling that some people call it seasonal disaffection disorder, that you just feel a little bit yuck during winter. So I thought that we would have a little bit of a chat about our mental well-being through winter and how we can look after ourselves and each other. For disabled people, winter often brings additional barriers. Cold weather can increase pain and fatigue. Poor weather can make travelling more difficult. We've seen in Aotearoa, Dunedin recently some rather extreme weather, some flooding, which has kept people at home for several days. And this can really wear on your mental health, even if you were lucky enough to escape flood damage to your property. Often community activities are cancelled or they become less accessible. I found that I had no support workers over those couple of days where we had the flooding, which also can lead to isolation. So I think we need to talk about mental well-being, and it's important that we talk about mental well-being, that we don't just shut ourselves out and not acknowledge that this time of year can be rather difficult for the disabled community, and how we can be, in more practical ways, we can uplift our mental well-being. We mustn't pretend everything's okay. We need to stay connected and find moments of joy and build resilience even when life feels difficult. So, winter affects everybody, regardless of whether you have a disability or not. Less daylight time can influence our body's natural rhythm. It affects our sleep, our mood, and our energy level. So some people experience seasonal affective disorder, otherwise known as SAD, quite appropriately. I didn't know the abbreviation was SAD. Well, others, many more, in fact, just notice that they feel rather less motivated or more tired during the colder months. Maybe it's because we're mammals, we're actually meant to be hibernating in July. For disabled people, these seasonal changes are often layered on top of all the existing challenges that we face. So in the cold weather, many people notice that their pain increases, their muscles become more stiff, and they suffer from fatigue more. If you're a wheelchair user, you may notice that getting out is more challenging. The ground is slippery or it's wet, and this can lead to inaccessibility of your social activities and isolation. Often people with chronic illnesses feel like they need to avoid the seasonal viruses that you get at this time of year, so they might want to stay at home for that reason. And if they're staying at home, again, it can lead to isolation. Then there's the deaf community. If you rely on lip reading, you might find the fact that people are wearing masks and scarves more often presents some challenges. So, when we're in winter, as disabled people, we face more challenges than most people, even though most people find winter hard. Another thing that can happen is we might have to go to more medical appointments. So, that might mean that we don't get as many opportunities for recreation. So we need to think about isolation when it comes to wintertime, because isolation is a big cause of decreased mental well-being. We need to be intentional about protecting our mental well-being. So remember that mental health and mental well-being are not the same thing. Everybody has mental health, just as everybody has physical health. Mental well-being is not about just feeling sad or anxious or overwhelmed. It's also about having the tools and supports and to build relationships that help us navigate life's ups and downs. Everybody experiences ups and downs in their lives. It's just often that these things are compounded for people in the disabled community. We also need to remember that there's nothing wrong with having the occasional bad day. Everybody has an occasional bad day where they feel down. It's perfectly normal to have a few days, especially at this time of year, where you're just really not quite feeling yourself mentally. But when this becomes repetitive and it becomes almost your norm, then it's really time to think, I need to do something about it. We need to care for our minds just as much as we care for our bodies. And one of the things that we can do to really make sure that our mental well-being is protected is to stay connected in our community. It doesn't always mean you have to go to big parties. Sometimes that might mean that you just pick up the phone and call mum. I'm always calling mum at really odd hours because she lives on the other side of the world. A 5-minute phone call with somebody you love and care about can be really, really uplifting. Sometimes it's just sending a text message and getting a response from somebody you care about. How's your day? Oh, well, it was pretty hard this morning to get the kids up for school. That's social connection. Knock on your neighbour's door and have a cup of tea. Chances are that they're feeling the same way. I have retired neighbours, and I've actually been meaning to catch up with my neighbour for a cup of coffee for weeks now, and I haven't done it. And that's not really particularly good for either of our mental well-being, so it's something that we need to actually learn to prioritise. Some people find computer games to help, because often in 2026, computer games can be quite social. You might have an online gaming group, and you don't have to leave the house if that's too much of a challenge for you, but you can still stay socially connected. Some people enjoy a book club. Sometimes the local library has a book club that you can attend, or a knitting group. So think about these often free activities where you can connect with members of the community, or you can connect with people that you love. Research consistently shows that meaningful relationships help reduce the feeling of loneliness and improve resilience. So we don't always have to leave the house, because leaving the house can present a number of challenges. We have now modern technology which helps us bridge the gap. A lot of people find that social media, for all its negatives, can actually help with their mental well-being by connecting with people in similar situations to you. There's lots of social media communities and social media support groups, and sometimes people feel connected with people that are experiencing the same disability as them. We also need to take breaks from social media, though, because it's a double-edged sword. Doom scrolling can be really negative for your mental health. So this is when you're just scrolling through content, not really taking anything in. It's something that we need to be careful about. So some social media can be good, too much can be negative for your mental health. So sometimes you just have to ask yourself a simple question: how am I really doing in my mental well-being? And what can I do to improve this? So we've talked about social connectiveness. Another thing that you can do is a little bit of exercise. People often talk about exercise as a cure-all, but many people in the disabled community, myself included, find that traditional advice around exercise is just not realistic. I can't take a walk around the block. I can take a roll around the block, I guess, but there are lots of barriers to doing that, and often in winter that's the weather. But movement doesn't have to look a particular way. It doesn't have to be outside for a start. You can be stretching in your bed. You can do some gentle exercises in your wheelchair. There are things like adaptive yoga. Your local pool might have something like aqua jogging available to you. Some people find just putting on their favourite song and dancing in whatever way that your body allows you to in your lounge, it can be quite uplifting for your mental health. If you are a wheelchair user, maybe going around the block is going to help you if the weather allows. I did this the other day and I got stuck in the mud. But it's actually, even when that happens, giving yourself a little bit of a giggle about it and washing it off and carrying on can also be a bit uplifting. If you can change positions, it can improve your circulation, reduce your stiffness and boost your mood. We're not looking for a perfect exercise routine here. We're just looking for a little bit of movement of your body and maybe a little bit of time spent outside, if you can and as the weather allows. So the other thing that we can do is make the most of the light. So daylight plays a really important role in regulating our body clock, and this can be one of the reasons why people really struggle in winter, is because it doesn't get light until pretty late, and then it gets dark really early. So if you can, perhaps open the curtains early and sit next to a sunny window. If the sun is shining, make the most of it. Getting outside isn't always practical, but by opening the windows and sitting by a sunny window, you can bring the light inside. Some people benefit, and this is something I'm terrible at, from maintaining regular sleeping and waking times through the winter. And that can look like whatever it looks like to you. People might be proponents of the early bird catches the worm, but you might just find that you function better at night, and that's okay. It's more about being more regular in your routine, because consistency helps our body know when it's time to rest and time to be alert. And if you're not consistent, you wind up in a cycle like I'm in at the moment, where I feel like I'm sleepy all day and really wakeful at night. And that doesn't really work for a work routine particularly well. And then we need to talk about food. In winter, we're often really after comfort food. So enjoying our favourite meals can also be a social activity. But also remembering that junk doesn't fuel our body. Our brains need regular, nourishing food, and we need to stay hydrated. And when our energy is limited, keeping meals simple is actually perfectly okay, because in the disabled community, we often feel like we don't have the energy to cook up a roast or a winter stew or something that people think of as being really nourishing food. But remember, we can use things like frozen vegetables, which are really affordable. Some people use a slow cooker or a pressure cooker, an instant pot, to make that kind of stew with minimal effort. We can use pre-prepared meals. Something like beans on toast is actually a really super nourishing, really quick meal. So nutrition doesn't have to be complicated. But also remember, hydration is really important, even in winter, because in summer, perhaps we think about it more. If we're out in the sun, we're feeling dehydrated, but we need to remember to drink. And I find in winter drinking can be complicated because I don't always want an ice cold glass of water in the middle of winter. And for me, I really struggle to make hot drinks because it involves standing by a kettle, which causes me a lot of fatigue and pain, and then pouring hot water, and I have a significant tremor, and pouring boiling water is not a good thing when you have a significant tremor. So I find making hot drinks can be really challenging. And so utilize your supports. If you have a support worker in the house or you have somebody else who can make you a hot drink, utilize that help. Finding joy. Also, we need to remember that we can find joy in the little things. Our lives can become, especially as disabled people in winter, can become a series of appointments, work, caregiving, or simply just getting through a rather miserable, cold, wet day. And then often we find that we don't find any joy in our routines. So we need to look for joy. It won't necessarily come to us, and it doesn't have to be expensive. One of the things that I'm finding really joyful at the moment is for my birthday, one of my closest friends, or a couple of my closest friends got together and they bought me a hamper of things to find joy in. And one of those things was an adult colouring in book. And it's so cute. It's got these little bears that do all sorts of cute little things, like make magic and bath and turn into mermaids. And it's just adorable. But I'm finding an immense amount of joy in colouring. And I bought myself some $6 metallic markers from Kmart, and I'm enjoying actually just spending some time relaxing. Some other suggestions could be perhaps listening to music. I've also recently rediscovered some of the music that I used to really enjoy, coming on for 20 years ago when I was a student. So early 2000s rock. And it's funny that people often talk about that your music tastes you stop developing them when you hit around 25, and it feels very true to me is that I don't actually know any modern music, but I really enjoy the stuff that I used to listen to. Some people really enjoy putting some birdseed out and listening and watching the birds through the window. You can get a lot of joy out of this, and also picking out birds that you might not be all that familiar with. Some people enjoy reading a good book. I'm making my way through a crime novel at the moment, an Anne Clee's novel, where the murder takes place at a literary retreat. And yes, it's quite gory, but it's also just pure escapism because it's Agatha Christie-like. It's a real mystery, and it's just escapism, and I'm really enjoying that. Some people enjoy crafting. I certainly do. My kids and I have been making little polymer clay sculptures. And get the polymer clay off one of these Chinese websites, Shein or Temu, for not very much money. And we've been really enjoying making little critters out of clay. And my daughter enjoys putting them in her pocket and having some comfort while she's at school of something familiar. Some people enjoy watching television. I'm not a great TV watcher, but there are a number of YouTubers that I enjoy following. And sometimes finding a YouTube channel on something that you find interesting. I like to watch a lot of history YouTube channels. One of my favourite YouTubers is Max Miller, and he does a YouTube channel on tasting history where he makes a dish from history and then he talks about the history surrounding it. And I've been enjoying some episodes on the food that people ate during the World Wars. And you can also recreate some of these recipes, which can also be a lot of fun. Some people enjoy playing with pets, laughing with friends. And remember, sometimes these moments feel indulgent, I'm being distracted from work. But actually, they're not indulgent. They're really important for your mental health to do something that you just really simply enjoy. And then we need to remember that if we are struggling, we need to acknowledge this to ourselves. And once we've done all the basics, we've done some exercise, we're making sure we're getting well fed, lots of good nutrition, we've been outside a bit, we've tried some new hobbies, but we're still feeling down, think about asking for help. One of the strongest things we can do is recognize when we need support. And that might mean just talking to a trusted friend and saying, listen, I'm feeling really down today. Or it might actually mean going to your GP and getting some support or even some medication. You can talk to a counsellor, a psychologist, a peer support worker. Some disability organisations offer some counselling. And if you're struggling, you do not have to reach crisis point before asking for help. There are things you can do for yourself, but you can also reach out. And having some support can make your recovery from your mental health crisis a lot easier. Try not to get to crisis before you ask for help. You also might know that people around you notice that if you're having a bit of a mental health crisis. And try and notice when your friends are having a bit of a hard time. One of my friends is going through a breakup at the moment, and sometimes we can acknowledge these things by, like last night, I just bought her a glass of wine and we sat and chatted for a bit. And I don't know whether it helped, but she at least had some moments of just enjoying herself and getting herself out of that difficult mental health situation. Then we can also do something like finding routine. A lot of people find comfort in routine, and routine can be good for our bodies and our mental health to have expectations around what's going to happen that day. Some people find that if they start their day with a hot drink, a cup of coffee, a hot chocolate, nice cup of tea, that starts them out on a positive way for the rest of the day. Or maybe it's having an early morning shower that wakes you up and gives you a bit of inspiration for the day. Some people find things like lighting scented candles or watching the sunrise or having a routine where you call the same friend at the same time each week. These little routines can provide anchors when you're having a difficult time. Then another thing you really need to think about is being kind to yourself. I often beat myself up if I have an afternoon nap, and I have an afternoon nap pretty much every day, and say, well, you slept during the day, you're not going to sleep at night. But I do need to be a bit forgiving because I slept when I was tired. And being compassionate to yourself and not always pushing through can actually be, or asking for help as well if you need that, can and be the difference between having poor mental health or being able to keep your mental health healthy. Self-compassion isn't giving up. It is realizing that we're human beings and human beings have hard days. We just need to give yourself the same kindness that you would give to everybody else. Rest can be very productive. Often rest is something that we, as I said, I beat myself up about having rest, but actually it can really just turn over a new leaf and give yourself a blank slate to start again. So it's really important that you reach out if you need support. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, we don't have to struggle alone. We've actually got some numbers that we can call. You can call or text 1737 at any time, day or night. It's a free service to speak with a trained counsel if you're feeling stressed, anxious or lonely or need somebody to listen. You can talk to your GP and connect with counsellors. There are free mental health services available. If you're supporting a young person, organisations like Youthline and the Lowdown provide support specifically for young people, while Lifeline Aotearoa offers a telephone or text service to anybody who needs it. Many disabled people find connecting with people who understand disability can be just as valuable as clinical support. Peer support networks can really help us. Across the country, disability advocacy organisations and peer support networks can really help you to build some friendships. There are very many of these groups. Look them up online and make sure that you have some support. If things are really bad and you know that somebody is in immediate risk of danger or harm, don't hesitate to call 111. None of us are meant to carry life's challenges on our own, and reaching out is not a sign of weakness. It takes courage, and it is the first step towards feeling better. Winter is a season. It will come and it will pass. And you're not alone in finding winter difficult. Take one day at a time, celebrate small wins, and reach out when you need support. Remember, looking after your mental well-being isn't selfish. It is absolutely essential. Thank you for joining me today on DPA's Notable Radio. I'm Amy Taylor, your host. Stay warm, stay connected, and be kind to each other. Ka kite anō.
Disabled Persons Assembly is Aotearoa, New Zealand's first pan-disability national organisation, providing system-level advocacy for all disabled people. Membership is free for individuals. If you'd like to know more, visit our national website at www.dpa.org.nz or contact your local kaituitui or community connector, Amy Taylor, at kaituitui.otipoti@dpa.org.nz. Disabled Persons Assembly, a whole new attitude.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.